And now you used to talk here, so teach here, so
I did, it's true.
yeah, it's true.
Sorry, we're trying to get the thing working.
Seems like we're aligned.
So once
Yep,
the live
seems like
stream
it.
is up and running, we'll get started. And feel free to
And it's
take
all you.
pictures.
Just present.
So if we go to present,
Yeah, I'll check it on my
Should
computer,
be
but I think you're.
yeah, go check it on that one and see if we're like, we're good.
I think so.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, just,
I want to make sure I can hear on the mic.
is it working over there?
Awesome.
Do you see just the blue screen or do you see like the little thing on the left?
It's a little lag, so this is us setting it up, but we're good.
Okay.
This is our live stream world premiere, guys. So we're watching history, you know.
We're gonna see how this plays out. I think we're gonna enjoy my Chrome window there. Do me a favor, you sir by the lights.
Yeah.
Can you turn these ones down in some way, shape, or form?
Just hit buttons.
Just hit the buttons until something happens. You know what I mean?
It's all
Oh,
down.
Ooh.
Dark?
that's up to y'all. It's got a nice creepy blue glow in here now.
Maybe the other way.
Other way.
Other way? Keep those on.
Yes.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay. We're gonna see how well this works. All right. I'll be like recording and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Project.
I have to project.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay. I do this all the time, and now I'm like freaked out because it's on the internet. Hi, everybody. Like that lovely introduction. This is Sarah.
Hi.
I'm Mal. We run Rocketkoi. Yeah, I used to teach here. I taught Introduction to Web Design and Advanced Web Design, which actually ended up turning into a course about how to do work with clients. So they came back to have us talk to you all about how to work with clients today. This is my very,
We need to.
I need the clicker.
The clicker, yeah. You do the clicker.
Okay, so this was my very first professional website. I did one of the first resnet.umd.edu websites. This thing was here for way, way longer than it should have been. I graduated in 2002. Yeah, and it was here until 2012, which is longer than it should have been. And it was just embarrassing to have it up there for so long. This is Sarah's. She did the very first Stamp Student Union Flash website.
Yeah, what's missing from here is those circles swooped in.
It came from like the side, and this website was about this big in the corner.
Well, yeah, because by the time they took it down, it was tiny.
It was also
Yeah,
probably
probably about 2011 or 2012.
renovation information. Never got updated. But now we do stuff like this. We do branding work and we do web design work. We do print collateral for conferences and all kinds of stuff. Sarah did this for the Ovarian Cancer National Conference that we just did. Its second year. So we took the same system and changed a bunch of stuff to it. If you go to our website and go to our Dribble page, you can see like iterations and all these things. And we do really super content heavy websites. Like the world's fanciest PDF delivery website for a really amazing client. But each of those things are for different clients to do different things in different ways. And so that is why we are here to discuss working with clients. The question we were actually asked was, how do we keep our vision while working with clients? And the answer is we have, if you're going to be a designer, you're working with clients and you have no choice in the matter. If you don't like working with people, if you don't like working together with people to achieve goals, if you don't like working together with people to do a thing, get a new line of work. There are plenty of fine art careers out there. You can be museum directors. You can do all kinds of stuff that you should not be a designer if you don't want to work with somebody. We are a service industry at the end of the day, just like barbers. It's from Totally Awesome Luke Cage. Everybody should watch it. It's super good. Plumbers, masonry workers, wait staff, sandwich makers. Like, we're more in that group than we are with artists. We are here to achieve a goal that somebody's exchanging money for goods and services. They pay us to do a thing. Because clients are not our enemies. We kind of get, it's easy for us as designers to view as clients hired us because they have no idea what they're doing from a design standpoint or what they want. They should just listen to us all the time. It creates very us versus them mentality. You always hear, I mean, there's a really funny Tumblr blog called Clients from Hell that has a bunch of quotes on it. There's infinite reviews and conversations and podcasts about the worst clients ever, and it creates this mentality that clients are the bad guys in whatever you're doing. While the truth is they are not. They're your partners in what you're doing. They're the ones that are, again, are paying you money to do something. So to treat them like an enemy is, so you take that out of the equation. Because we have to get over ourselves. We are designers. We went to school for design. We tend to talk about things like kerning and fonts, and all kinds of stuff that sounds so snotty and so great, but it's really stupid. Like, we care about that stuff because we're supposed to, but why we cannot present ourselves in such a way that portrays this idea that we are better than other people. Again, we're a service industry. We are not. We are as good as our last job. Mad Men did a bang-up job of creating this world where this like heyday of advertising, as people think they want to call it, where you go into a room, like I could stand here in front of all of you, and you hired me to do a thing, and I stand there and I say, boom, this is your idea, this is it. And I'm a genius, and now I'll give you money, and here's a dramatic presentation about it. Especially if you had like Don Draper walk in and be the smartest guy in the room, and all slick and suave and smooth, except he was an alcoholic who like cheated on everybody, and frankly threw up all the time in the office and was a complete disaster area of a person. So why would you want to model one aspect of that show and just kind of pleasantly ignore the other aspect of that world that was created? And people always forget that, especially when Mad Men was like at the height of its popularity. I would see presentations and I would see a trend back to presentations. I used to be an art director at a firm called Form One, to the presentation of that like formal flash in the pants presentation and the loss of conversation and turn to the us versus them mentality. And I really believe that it was like because of the show that came back in the industry. AMC, the people that did Mad Men, actually tried to have a show called The Pitch. It was like the most boring show ever because what we do is like watching paint dry, where they did pitches for like advertising gigs and stuff like that. It lasted like half a season. Because A, no one pitches stuff like that anymore, and it's really boring, and it's painful to watch. Oh, I forgot our book giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's books over here. There's books at the end of our table. We cleaned out our design library. You ask a question, you get a book. There's some bang-on awesome expensive books over there. We got a couple David Carson ones, actually a lot of David Carson ones. I had a lot of David Carson books. If you're interested in web work, there's a book called Don't Make Me Think that is all about usability. There's a really cool theory book from Micah that's over there. There's a great art book put together by an artist named Ashley Wood. So you ask a question, you get a book. Whoever asks first gets first pick. On down the road. Hey, yeah, there we go. Okay, I saw you first, you second. And you also have to say your name as well.
Okay, my name's
Evan?
Evan. Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things I would do freelance. So what would be one of your suggestions on how to not only get them, but how to get clients that is?
Stay tuned.
How to maintain.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. There's a whole second half of this stuff is all about that. Yes, yeah, of course you do. I didn't like call you. You could have asked me what you have for lunch today, and I probably would have gotten it.
Yeah, feel free to ask
Next.
while we're talking.
How do you know what books to give us?
Oh, because
The ones that we had doubles of, a lot of them?
It
Yeah.
wasn't like, oh, these
We
are-
combined our libraries.
no, anything that was useless, we got rid of. Otherwise, that would be really mean. Like here's a book on how to code websites from 1998. We had them. Most of these are either duplicates of books we don't look at that much anymore for inspiration. That we figured y'all would get if they came out. Like I said, if they don't get picked, they'll stay here. Just about call them and like hide them over there. But if you pick one, you get to take it home, and it is yours. Okay. Now that I totally forgot about that and messed up all my nice, beautiful segues. Okay, so what it comes down to now for working with a client is a world of communication and collaboration. This is a totally awesome Vince Vaughn stock photo set that they released about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It has him and Dave Franco and photoshopped into a bunch of cheesy like stock photos. They're wonderful. But the idea is that you are talking to people on a regular basis. This is not a time for going off into a dark corner and putting something beautiful together and then showing up and giving it to them without talking to them. In order to be a successful designer, you get over yourself and you go and you talk and you communicate. Something that's really easily forgotten about in our industry, that you have to be as much a talker as you do a craftsperson. And that is where, in the world of service, I actually think we have a lot more to do with waitstaff than anybody else. We have to know how to deal with people and talk to them. It's emo, or Barry from China Cloud with a Chance of Meatballs too. It's an adorable, well animated movie. Highly recommended. Through those conversations and through that collaboration, you get to goals at the end of the day. You get to why are you making a thing for the people you are making it for to achieve what? And by talking to folks and learning about that, you get the world's happiest clients on the face of the planet. Because those are objective, concrete things that you're talking about. Of the art, of the vision of everything, it's really easy to get murky and really easy to get waylaid about what you're doing. Because frankly, what is in your head is guaranteed to be different than what's in Sarah's head, or Evan's head, or Professor Thorpe's head, right? None of us are going to be thinking of the same solution at the same time, so we have to keep those goals in mind. It is totally weird seeing a bouncing strawberry there, and here. Like looking right here, I can see all three of them at once. And it's kind of a nightmare. At the end of the day, we're puppies. I always compare designers of any age and type to a puppy. All a puppy wants to do is everything that's right. Like a puppy just wants to please whoever it's, either it's parent dogs or its masters or whatever. A puppy is just like, I'm adorable and cute and please love me. Designers, we have the weakest little egos on the face of the planet. All we want to have happen is the client to say, yes, you did a great job, and here's a check for it. But keeping that in mind, you also remember that the people you're working with, they're also puppies. They also want to do a great job and achieve a great thing. So by realizing that you're both humans, not really puppies, but you're both people with egos that want to do a great job to meet a certain goal, as long as you keep looking at it from that plane, you have a much better conversation. Yes?
How long do you spend with a client, like researching their audience, and like how do you know that you've reached the like ultimate point of I've got it, like, or does it take back and forth messaging between them to figure out that you've achieved their like?
Good question. Okay, Google folks.
Repeat that question.
I'm gonna do the repeat the question thing. So what he said, internet, was how much research do we do to achieve kind of like basically a commonality, like what we call a shared understanding. You don't really know.
Depends, yeah.
We, on our projects, no matter what we're doing, we do a level of what we call discovery. Like I said, what we call, but everybody calls discovery in the industry right now, which is basically those conversations. For a large-scale branding project, like Ovarian Cycle, the one you saw at the beginning, we just rebranded this national event for a group called the Ovarian Cancer Research Fund Alliance. They're awesome. Everybody go give them money. They raise funding and awareness for ovarian cancer, which is a terribly, terribly tragic and common form of cancer that is really runs under the radar a lot. And this is a spinning event held at gyms all over the country. And we did 3 weeks probably worth of discovery work.
Mm-hmm.
I would say about that. And we knew it was done when everybody was not saying that's not quite right anymore. Now we do budget a time for it, and we make a deadline. We make a timeline that says, it should take about 2 to 4 weeks. What works better for your schedule, client? And they say 4 weeks because we're super busy right now. And for branding, you have to pay attention to it. Branding is not something that they can like go off and skitter away.
Yeah, I should also mention that that was an existing brand.
It was.
We were redesigning it. So if it was a whole new brand, new startup or something, it's probably going to be a longer process.
For a brand new organization, ideally, it's a 6 to 8 week process. And it's probably the only gig that I will have for those 6 to 8 weeks. I will work with other people.
Situations where like their schedule was shorter than what you guys had planned. And, you know, like it didn't work out. They didn't choose you guys, or you had to like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all the time. The question was if we've ever had timelines that didn't match up with the client's timeline, and yeah, all the time.
All the
We
time.
either turn them away and refer them to somebody else who we trust. Sometimes they're willing to wait for us until we have availability.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
We're very upfront with that kind of stuff and that type of honesty. We'll get to that in a little bit too. Sometimes if it's a shorter timeline and we really want to work with the client and want to do the work, like the work we do for the ovarian for OCRFA, we make it happen. We make it work because we've got some personal and emotional investment there because we've worked with them for so long. That we'll be like, okay, we'll clear out this, we'll do this, as long as we're being respectful to our other clients at the same time. A big rule we have at Rocketkoi is we never take on so much work that we're not paying attention to the clients we have. Like, the thing we tell folks is clients we have come first, clients we don't have come second. Like, we don't go after new work if it's gonna threaten our relationships with the people we already work with. Which makes for some scary dinner conversations sometimes when we're like balancing this potential new exciting thing to which could help pay bills and keep the lights on versus the work we're already doing. But we always go for the work we're already doing.
So when you apologize, if you're trying to market yourself to your clients, do you want to go down certain avenues? Do you want to go to this kind of design or just in general? Like,
Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's
Stay
going to come up.
tuned. That was like a planted question.
Yeah.
So to get out of this, we're going to do like the takeaways in a second. We're just kind of framing the conversation so you all know what to expect from hearing us blab on today. This example, this is actually a picture from one of our clients called the Training Resources Group. And this is, to me, the best example of get over yourselves that I can think up in the scheme of clients that we have. They're awesome. They are an organization that goes into other organizations to help them communicate better as an organization. They tend to work with clients that are on really hard projects in like the health sector or the environmental sector, just tough stuff that the folks, they are consultants for work for. And they basically go in, and the joke I would have with Renee, one of our contacts there, some other folks, are that they are a group that professionally shows other groups how to have successful meetings. Like, that's very high level. You know, it's like a silly way. We had to go in and present meetings to groups that present meetings professionally. I was all sweaty. And this was when I was teaching here. So, like, I'm used to being a teacher. I've been in the game for, I've been here for 12 years at that point. And I'm not, so I've been around a bit. I was all nervous and like gross. And I had to get over myself. I had to just be like, I'm not here to go in and say like, here's a great idea for what you have. Like, I had ideas in my head, but I had to go in and say, okay, y'all do this for a living. Tell me what you know. And we just sat down in a room, small as this, table like this, 8 of us sitting around it. We all figured out what the website was together. Because they did like charts like this, and I would bring up activities and they're like, oh yes, we do that. So it'd be like, okay, bring that expertise to the table. And it became a straight up partnership because we didn't walk in our first meeting with songs and dance and like all that kind of stuff. They're awesome. The website's
TRG Inc.
TRG Inc.
Isn't it dash?
Inc.org.
It's on our website.
And you can see what came out of it. You can see how, again, it's a content-rich website that really reflected their personality at the end of the day. We still work with them now because we had that respect and that open conversation. So we've got it framed, all right? It's about communication. It's about treating everybody like humans. Clients are the enemies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, blah. Now then, get out your notebooks because here's all the stuff you can do to become super famous and super rich. Okay. Number one, don't think of a design project as an art project. Don't think of it as a design challenge. This is the straight up scientific method taught at schools around the country since forever, where you have a question, you collect data, does data prove or whatever your hypothesis, you gain knowledge and you start back at the beginning again. That's what a design project is. You're showing up with a possible solution or a possible idea. You go to your client and say, does this idea work? They give you feedback, you iterate on it, then you go back to the beginning. You go again, and you go again, and you go again. And eventually you're like forever approaching zero without actually ever getting to zero. But that mental model removes your emotion from the project. It takes you away from thinking of it in the terms of your artistic vision, or I'm a fancy design student, or I won this award or that award. Doesn't matter. Is your question getting answered? Yes, no. Probably the first 6 loops through this other project, the answer is no every single time. And once you get used to the answer being no every single time, you get like a nice little bit of scar tissue, and then you're good. When we start a project, a little cheat we do when we're talking to clients is the blue sky question.
We do this with every client, from tiny clients, I don't know, like a brochure project,
Yep.
To a huge website.
And the idea of this question, of the blue sky, and I do not take credit for this idea. I learned it from a firm called Matchstick and Brian Verhoeven. He was a boss of mine at Forum 1 and a couple other books. This is not stuff that we invented out of thin air. Is getting people not to think about it as a brochure. All you're doing is getting insights onto why they even want to make this brochure in the first place. A client will often come to you with a brief with I need a website, I need a brochure, I need a sticker. I don't think anyone's ever actually come to us to say, I need a sticker. I don't know why that example just came into my head. I need a thing. It needs to be this big. Let's say it's a postcard. It needs to be a 4x6 postcard that gets mailed out in 3 weeks, and it's to promote ovarian cycle, an event. Okay. First thing we have to do is get a step back and be like, okay, why? What is the audience you're talking to? Why do you think a postcard works for this?
What is ovarian cycle?
What is ovarian cycle?
We haven't worked on it yet.
Because they have all that stuff already in their heads, and they think everybody is psychic. And it's not an incorrect assumption, but they're just ready to go. They've been living and breathing this for a while, and they're just like, hey, everybody knows what this is. And it's funny, we ask this question, and they're like, oh yeah, you're totally right. You have no idea what any of this stuff is that I'm talking about right now. Let's all take
Especially in the
back.
DC area, there's a lot of acronyms flying around.
So many.
I don't know what they mean.
We always have to just stop and say, okay, what does that stand for? I think that's the second most asked question I do at this type of stuff. Oh, also one of the reasons that I am talking a little bit more than Sarah is for this kind of stuff, because I usually do this for clients. So you guys are actually getting our client presentations all woven throughout this. It's really tricky. I'd advise you to even think about this depending on how your assignments are formed and structured and stuff like that. Think about it. Like, how can you ask that question?
Just examples.
Oh, thank you.
Also.
My notes. Okay, so TRG, the example we brought up earlier, when we started talking about possible blue sky goals, if they were as successful as they could be beyond just a website, and basically they were like, we'll put ourselves out of business because organizations could talk amongst themselves really, really well and happily and healthily and not get all stressed out all the time by the things we teach them. And so one day they would not have to exist. Ours, Rocketkoi, we realized we had never done it before, so we did it while we were eating dinner earlier. And ours is that clients and us, Rocketkoi, immediately have trust between themselves to make great products. Like, we don't have to go through exercises to create trust, right? We can just do it, and we're just hitting the ground running. Thank you. Okay. Who likes the blue on the right? Who likes the blue on the left? Who hates blue? Some of y'all didn't raise your hands, so obviously you're just like, I don't like blue. We do this. We put this exact slide up when we're talking to clients, because what we want them to do is understand that everybody has bias. Everybody has innate visual bias towards one thing or another. Be it you don't like a color like orange, or you're saying blue and you're like, I like this blue, but not this blue, so what's blue, right? And we start getting clients really comfortable talking through those things. Because what we'll say is, okay, you don't like, let's say it's blue on the left. We have to ask why. We have to make people explain why they don't like the color blue. Because what it brings about is actionable feedback. We'll be getting into that a little bit in a second. That's a really big thing that you have to work on. You can't just hear, I don't like blue, because what does that mean? What are you going to do with it? Okay, I'm going to turn it all red, and then somebody could say, I don't like red. Right? We got to dive in and start getting people comfortable embracing those biases right from the beginning. Because then also you will avoid making a blue website. Like in the first couple of meetings, sometimes we've done this. We go around the table with our stakeholders, and we actually talk about, is there a color you don't like? And we see what people say. We worked on a mark once early in our partnership with a client, and I did these bang-ups, like sketches.
For like a
really cool
classy event.
For like a classy event. And they just fell with this massive folk on the client side. And this was our first thing with them. So I'm all stressed out, just like, what did I do? I didn't make them embrace their bias. Like, I was so excited about working on this project that I skipped right over my own steps. Turns out that they really, really, really dislike Art Deco. And all three of them were straight up like Art Deco inspired, Great Gatsby looking designs. And so we kept diving into it and kept diving into it. Finally, we just asked her, like, wait, do you not like Art Deco style things? And one of our primary stakeholders said, yes, totally.
She felt bad telling us that.
She didn't want to tell us. She felt really bad.
We said, we don't care if you don't like Art Deco. We didn't invent Art Deco.
Yeah, you're not like and we're like, okay, thank you for telling us. When we went back around, we nailed it first time. Second pass through, just killed it. And they're still using the branding on the event and stuff. You have to do that at the beginning. You've got to make everybody feel a little uncomfortable to become comfortable 2 seconds later. Theory. You show your work early and often, but you do not show it so early that it isn't a complete concept yet. Hence the half-baked cookie. It's still a cookie. It looks like a cookie. Probably tastes a little bit more like a brownie, but it's warm and delicious.
But it's not done.
But it's not done.
Yeah.
But everybody knows it's not done. Like, you can look at it and you're like, that's not done yet. I want to eat it anyway. But it's not done. To folks at that level, they know you're bringing them into the process, into the conversation, but you're still bringing your expertise. But you're trusting them to start to give you feedback at that early stage. And by beginning to establish that trust, everything goes so much better because they can start giving you feedback on your ideas before you've put in what we think is like the last 20%. Again, it's a very popular theorem out there is that most of the work on any project is done in the last like 20% or 30% of it. I actually worked with a guy whose uncle, I think, made up that rule. Like, he has a Wikipedia page. It was nuts. Because I tried to pull this off in a presentation. He was just like, my family member invented that. That last 20% is where we go from being designers to being artists. That is when we go 564 pixels, 563 pixels, 564 pixels, 56 pixels. Back to the beginning again. And that's our blood, sweat, and tears phase. That's when we're up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like fixing all these little things. And when people give us feedback in that phase, that is overtly, I don't want to say negative, but I'm going to, that is negative, that is, we're in the right direction. That's when our feelings get hurt. Like, straight up, our feelings get hurt.
It's also harder to make changes at that stage.
And you're like, I put all this work into it. We're at the end of the game, and now you're telling me this doesn't work? Oh, and you're like flipping your computer out the window. Show it to them earlier than that. Yeah.
We also, in our first meeting with clients, we show them the slide. We explain what the cookie process is about so that they're not surprised when they see something that isn't 100% finished.
Correct. Yeah. No.
Say you have a vision, like a client says, I want you to do this, and you have a vision for what it looks like,
Uh-huh.
and then you show it to them, it's like, nah, change it, but
Yeah.
you know that you'll have better products in the end. Do you have to, can you convince the client to do otherwise, or do you have to stick with what you
No.
We're getting to that too soon. We have those
We are.
slides, yeah.
But a couple of things, think about how you just asked that question. We have to convince the client that we're right, they're wrong. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose that battle, hands down. Because you're setting your own self up for defeat. In a way, you're turning it into into a battle. What you have to do when that happens is say, okay, here's a little bit of my rationale. And like Sarah said, we're gonna show you ways to do this, to show folks, like, here's why I made the choices I made. Here's the goals I'm trying to achieve with those choices. It seems like my solution right now isn't meeting those goals in the way you think they should do. How can we come to the middle? I want to pop back to ecos really quick. Oh no, we have the eco slide further ahead. Never mind. Sorry, internet. Okay, let's do it right now. What's the next slide? There we go. Okay, for example, one second, because we're getting right to the heart of that question. In the background here on this slide is the Moving Stories website from earlier. This is a business that makes cool video journals for folks for bar mitzvahs, and big life events. Sometimes they're gifts that give your parents. It's just sweet. And we needed to make a website that exuded the warmth of our client and how she viewed everything. She was looking for a very textured, very layered feeling because some of her stuff is very collage-like. And there are ways to do that frankly aren't the most visually appealing or don't work on the web. You're creating a really heavy loading page, for everything to have lace or something on it, which could have been a tact we took. But instead we went with textures, we picked serif fonts, warm colors, there's not a lot of bright white on the site, things like that. And we asked feedback like this. Instead of stopping the question at write notes for moving stories, we follow up that question with, do they help bring warmth? Because that's a goal that we're asking about. And then she could say, you know what, it does. Have you thought about doing X and Y as well? Or she could say, no, it's not quite there. And we would say, why? And that happened as we were working on this and evolving it. It happened probably every iteration, but in a positive way. Not, and I know this isn't working, head-butting way. Another one, this was for ECOS, the Environmental Council of States. They're a great organization downtown. I keep saying great organization. I mean, a different qualifier.
We have a lot of great
We have a lot of
clients.
great organizations. So every state has a environmental wing to their government. ECOS is a group that makes them all talk to each other. If something great, if California is doing something great with the water supply there, with their bays, with their tributaries, they will talk to Maryland and say, hey, Maryland, this could work in the Chesapeake Bay, because they're the ones that help everybody. They put out a lot of reports and a lot of documentation on a regular basis. They don't have a lot of pictures on their website. They just don't. They're not, it's not a park service, they're not doing that kind of work. So we had to make sure that all the content was in place and was still visually appealing without a giant picture on top of it. So there's feedback about that. And we were saying, do we need to feature more events? Is the content priority correct? Because this takes the conversation away from visual and to the goals that we have to meet. And frankly, I had a ton more documents up on the screen, and they're like, yeah, we don't need that many.
What happened with this one I'm remembering now, they kept going back and forth. Oh, maybe we should have a picture up there. Everybody else's picture's up there. I'm like, let's find a stock photo. And we kept guiding them back to what we found in Discovery, which was these documents are the most important thing that people are coming to the website to find. And so we fixed it by having this little bit of this image showing on a monitor.
Yeah, down here at the bottom.
On their monitors.
So it's
Yeah.
a focus. So if you go to ecos.org, it's a really beautiful picture of the creek environment. And as you scroll up the page, it stays in place and the content rolls over it in a neat way. And we drew icons for all their areas of focus, which is how they categorize the subjects they work on, to create visual interest
Right.
without like,
So we had a picture and, you know, the icons that like
Yeah.
Malcolm said, but we still had the priority of the documents there. So everybody was happy.
and that was back and forth. It was back and forth. So what was your second part of the question? Where I said, wait. Are you good? All right, cool. Okay. We've gotten a couple tips and tricks there. Okay. There will always be, in our industry, bad clients. None of the people we work for are bad clients, he says loudly on the internet.
It's in quotes because most clients aren't bad clients.
Yes, there are people in the world who are evil and mean and all kinds of stuff, but if you worked anywhere, that's going to happen. That is not unique to the design industry. Where the idea of a bad client comes from is a lack of shared understanding. Folks haven't talked to each other. Lack of understanding expectations of what everybody's getting into, and a lack of security. This is something Sarah said as we were getting the sandwich and a cup of tea right before this. She was like, it's security. It's if you're nervous about something, which every client is going into this process. And a lot of places, they're investing a lot of money into something, a website. That is no small investment of funds, proportionally to whoever you're working with. They're nervous, man. And if somebody's nervous and stays nervous, just like any of us, they're going to feel like they're backed into a corner. And they're going to start becoming defensive. They're not going to understand how to talk and communicate to you, and have a default to certain positions and personas that creates the idea of a bad client. That's like a 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's always that 1% where someone is going to be a little difficult to work with. It's a tough time. I deal with it. And note that that is truly in the minority, even though our industry makes it sound like it's the majority. It's a really drastic shift. It's kind of like you never hear when things are going great, and but you always know when things are going wrong. It's a thing with us. So how to deal with said bad clients? Go.
You need it. Here.
Oh, I need the thing. I keep forgetting about this thing. Okay. We frame the start of during our discovery process in those conversations. We start the process by actually saying, here's the type of stuff we're looking for when we ask you for feedback. One, we're always going to be asking why. It's super annoying. But we don't do it like, why? You know, or we're not like, why do we need to do that? I don't want to do that. It's a question of, okay, you're requesting something, tell me more about that request. And sometimes it's solved really quickly by getting on the phone for 5 minutes.
Yeah, something to keep in mind is we have design education, right? Our clients do not. They don't have the language to explain what they want. So it's our job to hear what they're saying and figure out actually what they're asking for.
Yeah, we're like
Yeah.
translators. So make sure you ask why. We ask people to not say certain words. Nothing is worse than feedback saying like, I'm really disappointed in this. Or why don't you just make work that you would be proud of?
Yeah.
Or I'm just unhappy with everything here.
And sometimes though they say that, and when you ask why, you find out it's because they didn't like the blue you used. And you're like, well, guess what? We can change that blue.
Yeah.
And everybody's happy.
There's a show we recommend design students and newer designers in the industry watch. It's a show on HGTV. It's called Property Brothers. There's a half-hour version and an hour-long version. Do the half-hour version. Because it's basically that. People are going to these houses and they're like, this house is great, but I hate the paint on that wall. And every time, they're like, if there's anything in this house we can change, it is the paint on the wall or something. Right? Like right away. But that's what new house buyers always do. They're like, I don't like this carpet. And this property buyer is just like,
I actually watched one the other day where a woman said, I want to put the dining room in the living room, the living room in the dining room. And they said, why do you want to do that? Then the dining room's so far away from the kitchen.
Yeah.
She said, oh, yeah, that's a good point.
it's a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful show about discussing design with people who don't have the same education, literally the same education, so they just don't know the words. Or they don't think through things like the plumbing or the navigation of the house. That's our job. Because we need stuff to be actionable. Again, we've got to be able to move forward with a project. We also tell people not to just say that it's great. I mean, it's truly beautiful to hear. It's great, just keep going. Oh, no. That is a trap from like the pits of hell because it is great. It truly is. They're very, very happy with it. But what we have to do is pull it out and make them stop, breathe for a second, and look at it and start giving us feedback. Because if we keep hearing it's great, nice job, really good work, we think it's all coming together, guaranteed that in about 3 weeks, something's gonna happen or change a lot. Because sometimes that means that folks don't have a moment to stop and like really check it, or they are just really excited about the process. And it's kind of like the honeymoon phase of dating, where like nothing is wrong with anybody ever, and you're just having like a great time, and it's all perfect.
But then they keep looking at it.
Yeah.
And looking at it.
Looking at
things
it.
start to come in.
We call it the magic eye. Basically, you're looking at it, and eventually you start to see sailboats.
Do you guys know what magic eyes are?
Magic eyes.
Yes.
It's
like the wrong audience.
Have you ever seen the movie Mallrats? It's an older movie by Kevin Smith. It's pretty freaking funny. It's really great. There's a scene in it where a guy is looking at this poster. Behind a magic eye, it was a pattern. And if you looked at it long enough, you started to see a sailboat or something like that. And in this movie, this guy can't.
It's really big in malls in the 90s. There's always a
Huge.
booth.
It's going to be back. It's going to be back in like a month. You'll be like, oh, magic eyes are the
You can
coolest thing.
Google magic eye.
The worst I could ever see. But that's the idea. Okay, we start from, yeah.
At what point in your guys' careers did you start feeling comfortable saying these things to clients that they want to? I'm imagining myself talking to someone right now doing freelance stuff and saying, I'm gonna ask you not to say, please avoid words like disappointed. I feel kind of ridiculous doing that at this point in my career. Maybe this is just about becoming confident as a designer, but
it is. When did we start doing that?
Like within the past year, probably spelling it out for people within the last year, because we kept getting feedback like that.
And we were like, why are we getting feedback like this? And so we just decided to try.
Yeah.
Just in a meeting, I just decided to do it one day.
Even if you just, when you send a comp to someone, frame a few questions like we talked about before, and maybe mention it then, you know, like this is the type of feedback I'm looking for. That's probably a little bit more comfortable than sitting them down for a meeting and showing them a slide and saying, don't use the word disappointed with me.
We don't put that up on slides.
Yeah.
That one is for here. We don't, or for the internet.
Yeah, it's for, you know, it's more conversational.
It is more conversational. We are a very formally informal design firm. We are consummate professionals. We're obsessed with deadlines. We're obsessed with feedback. We're obsessed with making great stuff for our clients. However, we want our conversations to be comfortable, still professional, still above board. I swear a lot. I try to do it a lot less in client meetings. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But we want everybody to be comfortable. So usually when we start to hit the design round of a project, we've gone through discovery, we've worked for them for anywhere from a week to a month to 6 weeks. They know us, we know them. And so I can feel pretty comfortable saying, okay, just when you're thinking about your feedback, try to avoid non-actionable things like I'm disappointed or I don't like this. Take a breath when you have that thought and try to figure out why. And what we want to hear is the why. So you do it like that. You could also start with the why. Say, for example, looking at this design, I enjoy this part. I'm not the happiest with this part. What do you think? Because if you're showing work at the 80% mark, there's going to be stuff on there that you don't like that much yet. And it's okay. And you can point that out to them and then have a conversation around that part together. So that's ways. We do force them to do this. We've done this since the beginning.
And this is something we'll write this in an email to them when we send the comps. We say, look at the 2 versions we sent, pick your favorite one, tell us one thing you hate about your favorite one. Pick your least favorite one and tell us 2 things you actually like about that one. And people usually do it too. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because we give them between 3 to 5 days for feedback, depending on the size of the organization. Again, we don't want them staring at things for too long because you all have done it. If you're writing something, you just keep looking at it. Words that you've typed a million times just look wrong all of a sudden. Happened to me once with the word why, like at a paper when I was here. I had to go ask my roommate. I was like, did I spell why wrong on this paper? I'm looking at it so much. And it forces them to be actionable and be constructive. And also what it does is as you're iterating through that scientific process, you take this information and you take it back to the top. You do your next versions and you refer back to the answers here.
Plus, you know, they look a little deeper at it instead of just, here's the website. That looks nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Okay, for any project that you think is going bad, it's being very difficult and very hard, find 3 things in it that you just dig. They can be the smallest of small things. One of my earlier in my career projects, it was going very, very squirrely. So I had to pick things. And one of the things was the logo that they had a little graphic effect at the bottom of it, and I broke the plane of the design with it. So it was just a website with like a navigation at the top, content at the bottom. I made the logo go over both, like a neat little way. The little shadow underneath of it, felt like fancy pants. That son of a gun logo stayed there through every iteration of the design with that treatment. I just left it there because it was a great little detail, and I would always explain why it's there, and it stayed all the way through. And I remember that now, as opposed to all the stuff that went squirrely. By finding those little things to focus on, try to make it 3. If you do 3, pick 2. If you can't do 2, pick 1. It makes you keep going. Easy as that, and they can be small. Because, this is one of our favorite quotes on the face of the planet. Yes, we did that quote thing where we put it up on a slide and made you read it. This is from a book that we're going to recommend again in a minute. It's called Burn Your Portfolio. It's by Michael Janda. It's a wonderful book. It's an absolutely wonderful book. I like that I say that, and I've actually never read it.
Yeah.
Sarah's read it.
I read excerpts to him when I'm like, hey, look, this is what
She'll
we do
read
too.
it, and
Yeah.
she'll go pull it back out again, and it's like reading time at Rocketkoi HQ. She like reads the excerpts from it, and it's wonderful. And it's also written like that. It's written in short little chunks.
So yeah, when Malcolm made that 3 things slide, I said this quote from that book, so I pulled it out.
Which the best part is, like, it's right there. Don't spend countless hours trying to convince your client why your ideas are better. That is a waste of your brain space. Because at that point you're fighting. You're pushing a rock up a hill, man. Like, you've got to get them down there with you to help push that rock up. And so if you're trying to convince somebody of something, stop. Just work on it, nuance it, find those places where it does work. Understand that we're a service industry and you just got to get the job. You got to get the food out the door.
Just make it the best you can.
Especially, I love the end of it. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't mean that you abandon your design principles.
With the rest of this quote, he's like, if you absolutely must use Comic Sans, like they're insisting on Comic Sans, you kern it so it's perfect.
So it's the best use of Comic Sans you've ever seen. I used to work at PBS Kids. There's a website for Arthur. It was all in Comic Sans. I worked there for 3 years before I realized it. Because they did like a bang up job on it. So I didn't think twice when I looked at it. Like, at all. Because at the time when I started at PBS Kids, we still used what are called web-safe fonts. They came on every computer, so everyone could use them. It looked baller. They did a great job, and it was for the right audience, and it looked really great. Right, it was Comic Sans on that thing. And who cared? Nobody. Not a person on the planet cared. Because it did a great, great, great job at it. So a big thing for me, this is my biggest thing. I see you. I got you 1 second. Get some sleep.
Before this happens.
Before this, Arrested Development, you've got to get some sleep or some space. If you're not a very good buddy of mine, I don't think he sleeps ever. Bishop. Yeah. He's the creative director of PBS Kids. I don't think he sleeps ever. He just doesn't. But he gets space. He takes some space between them. So that it's a stop or it's being very difficult. He takes a break, walk away from it. Me, I gotta sleep. Even when I was in college, I could not do the all-nighter thing. I turned into like a zombie Jones and just failed everything that I did. You gotta give yourself that brain space if something is being very hard, very difficult, including a client or a project. It just changes the perspective. And it's hard because I'm not saying don't think about it. That's an impossible thing to ask. You're going to keep thinking about it, but just do something else. Go outside, go to a bar, go play sports, go play video games. I watch movie trailers sometimes. It's like a weird thing I do to like get inspiration. Just do anything. Sit on the couch like this.
That's what I do.
Yeah, play games on your iPhone. You know, like do anything. You have to do it. Like there's no unequivocal thing. If you don't take that space, if you don't get a little sleep, if you don't let your brain rest, you're just setting yourself up for irritability, and that makes that client relationship even harder.
You're saying like don't spend hours convincing like a client to make a design. But what if that client is like the boss and you're like a creative team at the company and you're just working with somebody who just always shuts down your stuff when it's like, are they asking you for like your work, like advice and work, or are you just working for them,
It's,
making like whatever they want?
you know, here we go. Watch this. Oh wait, darn it.
Not yet.
I thought it was like the slide right after that. I was gonna be like,
Would have been slick.
okay. We've got the answer to that question in about 2 seconds. Just a quick summary point on that stuff. Our job at the end of the day, and this actually does play into that question. The question, internet, was, I like that there's like a person named Internet I'm talking to, was what do you do if you're working for an art director, you're working for your boss, and they're basically using you as a mouse. That's what they're doing. They're saying like, go over here, click here, click here. We'll get to that. But our job at the end of the day, this slide is, we also show this to clients. This is the actual design process. This is what it looks like. This is where you start. It's like chaos theory over here. On the, whatever side this is, on the
To the left.
left. It comes over, it gets a little like better. You can still see it's a mess. Here, this giant bump is where everything goes horribly awry in every way, shape, and form on any project. Always happens. We've had servers go down as we're launching websites. We've had a stakeholder show up that everyone's like, oh yes, we were supposed to show this person stuff the whole time, and we never did.
We've submitted files to the printer and they were wrong.
They were
And
wrong.
then we paid to reprint it.
I sure did, because I didn't print my stuff out to check my font size. Because illegible.
Those are the kinds of mistakes you only make once.
Yeah, especially when you have to pay for them to get printed over again. And it comes out the other side, but you notice that it's still not a straight line. It gets done, just gets finished, and that's a win. So, what's next? Okay. 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 So, to your question, go work for art directors. Go work somewhere. It should be the first thing you do when you get out of school. Go work somewhere. Even if it's not a design job, go work somewhere. You're going to have good art directors that are going to mentor, teach, grow, encourage, direct, which is you're their mouse some days because they do know better for a lot of stuff. They're going to know some stuff that works. They've been around the block a few times. You're going to have bad ones that from day one you are their mouse. You are there to create their vision because they don't want to do it anymore for whatever reason, because it's how they chose to manage this, how they learned about managing. Try to figure out what you can learn from them. Do the job, get your paycheck. As they are directing you and being that hovering art director and telling you everything is bad, try to take a step back and ask them why. Why are they asking you to make those changes?
Is it coming from the client? And they're just at the point where they're like, we're just going to, we can't work anymore to convince this client. We're going to make it how it's going to be.
If they are continuing to shut you down, especially as a new designer in the field, right? Say it. I used to tell students this anyway. Go look for a new job. Learn what you can while you're there. Try not to hop from place to place all the time. Make it at least like 8 months. Make it like a year. But then start looking for a new job. Get that experience under your belt and keep going. Because you're going to have clients that do that all the time. So what you want to do is take that thought and make sure you learn something from it, how to navigate it and keep going.
And while you're there, you can learn about the business also. Like maybe your art director, like Malcolm said, isn't, managing the way you want to be managed, but maybe the project manager has some insights about the business and you can talk to them about how they talk to clients and how they run discovery at the firm.
One of the things that I did not do well in my career when those situations blow up is take a step back and actually ask that director or that person why. Like I do regret that to a certain extent. Because after the fact, they were like, why didn't you just ask me? And I was like, I really felt like I couldn't. Like, well, that's dumb. And I was like, well, you've been with all those fun and games. But just try to talk them through. It's always going to happen.
Especially as a junior designer somewhere. You're there you're learning still.
Learning.
You're learning how the office culture is going to be there. You're learning design tricks, tricks in Photoshop, tricks in InDesign.
Tricks in
like,
PowerPoint.
You know,
Sounds silly, but it's
something
true.
that somebody's been working for 10 years knows how to do like that, and
Yep.
maybe you don't know yet.
He's a very, very good friend of mine. He's the art director. He made me change a shade of yellow 13 times. I was ready to burn down the world. But the thing that sucked is that on the 13th yellow, he was right, and it was the right choice, which is really annoying. But what it was, as we started talking it through, it had to do with the brand. It had to do with tone we were trying to get, and I was just missing it. I was not hearing it. And again, it was just like an afternoon. It wasn't like a lifetime thing. 13 times. I had a screenshot of it. Yellow 1, yellow 2, yellow 3, yellow 4, yellow 5. But about 2 years later, I just emailed it one day. Okay, this is a big rule for what's next for y'all as you're thinking about this. You are not art directors. Do not graduate from this college and go out there and get a business card because you freelance for yourself and put art director on. Don't do it. 2 reasons. 1, you're not art directors. You haven't done budgets for large scale organizations. You haven't had staff under you. You haven't had to go into client meetings and fix things that are going horribly awry. There's a whole swath of skills that come with that term art direction besides being the head of an art area. Because it actually sets you up for a little bit of failure when you're applying for jobs with their clients. So clients start expecting certain things out of you. I feel super, super strongly about this, especially as someone who used to hire people. It's tough. Just call yourself freelance designers. It's perfect. It says who you are. It says what you do. It sets a different type of skill set in mind. It shows that you are going out to do the work on your own if the opportunities already don't exist. It shows that you know how to work with clients, like that kind of stuff. Don't do this. And then you'll have better relationships with the clients that do hire you. Okay. So don't worry about style. Worry about trust. A big thing we've talked about all over the place today is creating trust with you and the clients that you're working with, and a bunch of different ways to do that.
Or even trust with you and your art director.
Yeah. Your art director yourself. If you start worrying a little bit too much about the style of what you're working on or making it look totally different than something else that's out there, because the internet right now loves celebrating that stuff, and rightly so to an extent, you're going to trip yourselves up and you're going to ding your own confidence. And then you're digging your own confidence, and then you feel like you don't trust yourself, and so why is your client going to trust you? As long as you work with creating a product that meets the goals, even if it isn't the flashiest thing in the world, we've made some postcards that we are bonkers proud of. It's a postcard. But we're like really proud of them because they really look great and they meet the goals of the client. That kicks ass. Is it going to win some fancy pants design award tomorrow? No. We don't care anymore because we know that we're going to get the next gig because that client trusts us and we can pay our bills next month. I also got to use a Glen Coco joke.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, resources. Book, write a portfolio. Great book, get it. Great book. Design Is a Job by Mike Montero. It's from the Book of Art series, which is also just a whole library of really light read, good resources. I'm gonna swear for a moment. This guy got pretty big on the internet for a talk called Fuck You Pay Me. And it was basically, he got really fed up with designers not talking about this like an industry and a job and a service industry. So he toned it down a little bit and wrote a book called Design Is a Job. He also has, he had a curated group of articles on Media, the website, there's articles on there, where he brought in other, and it was called, I think it was called Dear Design Student. Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
I think it was called Dear Design Student. And again, it's that idea of like working with clients, what you need to think about, all that kind of stuff. Us. You all spent your evenings with some pizza and us. Feel free to email us. Give us a little bit of time to get back to you. Don't ask us to review your homework. We're not going to. But if you have questions about design, if you have stuff like that, if you want some more information, some more resources, you're here. Doors open. Email us at hello@, it comes to Sarah and I. We'll get back to you usually in about 24 hours. Also, we're on Twitter, so you can tweet at us. I don't do Snapchat because I don't have enough hours in my life to pay attention to too many things. But it truly is an open door. Like I used to say we'd say to my students when we were here, like, you spent your time. You're going to have more questions later about stuff that you're just wondering about about the industry.
We've had people email us about contracts
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
I read somebody's contract once. It was a really good one. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you collaborate with each other?
Yes. All right, it is now the free run Q&A time, so ask us whatever you want. How do we collaborate with each other?
Well,
How long have you been collaborating?
well, let's see. We started Rocketkoi in 2014, so 2.5 years.
2.5 years,
A little more than 2.5 years. What we do is when a project comes in, we decide who's going to be the lead. Does what the other one says. Yeah.
We are never co-leads on a project.
We never both do a design and present it. Either I'm the designer on it or Malcolm is. Once in a while, we'll change up the programming on a website.
Yeah.
You know, Malcolm will design it, I'll develop it, or vice versa. But yeah, pretty much, you know, if I'm the lead designer and I say I need some sub pages made, which you're going to do as junior designers, he's my junior designer. Yeah.
If she needs screenshots, I take the screenshots.
Yeah.
We never do designer deathmatch, which is, let's say we all worked at a design firm. I would ask you all to do a design, and I'll present them all to the client, and you can all go in like film style and like duke it out, because that sets up weird competition. And
Yeah, we definitely don't need that.
I would like to not like.
That's probably something all of you are going to experience at some point.
Yes.
Where a bunch of people submit a comp. The client says, I want the header from this one, and I want the footer from this one, and you don't own the entire website, but you can still put it in your portfolio. Just say what you did on it.
How do you meet your clients?
We met them through, when we first started, it was through the work we had done before then. We both worked for other places, other agencies, other arenas for about a decade.
Yeah.
And both the places we worked at, when we left them to start Rocketkoi, sent us work.
Yeah.
Either work that was below their usual operating budgets because our overhead is a lot lower. Some of it was just work they thought we'd be a really good fit for.
Yeah, my old job sent me, I was a contractor for them. So I worked on their projects, usually programming. Malcolm's job would send us things that were too small for them.
That was too small.
Yeah.
And it's because we did good work for them ahead of time. Like we didn't have to go out and say like, hey, we're Rocketkoi. We make good websites. Internet, I'm dancing.
We got pretty lucky that we had a couple of big projects lined up right when we started.
Yes, we got very lucky.
Because I was ready to hit the pavement. I had been freelancing for about a year, but I mean, suddenly we needed double the amount of work. So I was ready to, you know, get out there and,
Got our hustle on.
but then Malcolm's old job, somebody sent us a project
Yeah.
that got us started.
Because again, it was too small and they knew we did the work. They liked us. Like at the places I worked, we both had, I'd like to say, I'll toot our own horn a little bit for this. We had pretty good reputations for getting work done on time, for understanding clients really well, and coming in on or under budgets when we worked. And basically you do those three things, you'll be a successful designer for the rest of your life.
And be nice.
And be nice. Oh yeah, and we're
Yeah.
also very nice. As you can tell, we are very mean people. We, frankly, one of our biggest things was just being nice to folks when we could, being professionals, being, you know, serious when we had to be, making jokes we have to be. That will also take you really far away. So now most of the work that we get is word of mouth. We did good work for this cat, and they went off to that person and said, yo, these guys did a good job. Let's see if we can work together. Some of it is from, they see our stuff some places. Sometimes social media, they've seen us.
It's mostly word of mouth,
mostly
and then
word
a
of
little bit they've found our website somehow.
That's the great mystery, is how they found us.
Yeah, we ask. Sometimes we don't get a clear answer.
We never.
Have you had an experience with a bad client where the project or process decided to stop working with you and not pay you at all? How do you?
So you have?
Mhm.
We haven't in Rocketkoi.
Correct. We have not had one.
Malcolm apparently has. I have not. The trick is to get 50% up front. And then you write into your contract that if they cancel it, you keep the deposit.
And you,
There's also something called a kill fee where, for some much bigger projects, you might bill in thirds, so you kind of make milestones to the payments and, you could adjust the kill fee based on those milestones.
that really comes down to true contracting. Making sure everyone reads their contracts, making sure that you have a kill fee in there if the project does go squarely. And unfortunately, it is, again, 9 times out of 10 it's just personality fit. If you weren't the right fit to begin with, sometimes it unfortunately gets protracted out in many ways. And lawyers get involved. All kinds of things.
Right. Just because you have the contract doesn't mean they're going to pay you.
Yes.
At the end, but it helps.
It helps.
We also detail in ours what it takes to cancel a project from us or from the client. There's AIGA has sample contracts on it's the website. Something.
DocuSign?
No.
No.
I'm going to look it up while you keep talking.
Our earlier contract work, we took some notes from there. Also, it's worth relying on like AIGA resources or other resources when you do draft another contract. Get a lawyer to look at it, make sure that you're covered.
Docracy.
Docracy.
But it's also on AIG's website. Docracy has a bunch of other ones that people have uploaded. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. We had a lawyer review ours, but when we were freelancing individually, we just kind of put it together, keep it in plain English so that everybody understands what you're getting at.
Yeah, so for example, our cancellation stuff, one is ethical cancellation. If they ask us to mimic, if they come to us and say copy somebody else's work, we have a cancellation clause in there, and we keep a deposit so that because they're basically asking us to break the law and not respecting us as designers. They have one if we do, not that we ever would.
Yeah,
that we ever would, internet.
If we copied somebody, they could say, you copied.
We're not paying
this
you to
website,
get out there. That kind of stuff. I mean, it's happened. It has happened in my career. At the time, luckily enough, it was frankly above my pay grade to deal with that world. I just did the best dang work I thought I could do. But it's going to happen. We're lucky. It hasn't happened to us yet. But also that's because we got checked with clients right from the beginning. We are very picky about who we work with, which again is a risky thing to do in the industry right now. We turn down work if we don't think we're the right fit from a personality standpoint. And we're working on gathering a list of folks that we can refer people to. So we try to avoid that from the beginning. Like if our gut is saying, just don't work with this person.
Yeah. We're not the right fit for them.
Not the right fits. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just say it. We don't think we're the right fit. Yeah. Anything else? We're here. Yeah.
Mine was just.
The former people leave.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Do you have a question? What is a question? I just wonder, when you guys turned into Rocketkoi. I don't know what jobs you had before, but did you guys?
Yeah, we didn't go through our history at all.
So I'll do mine first.
Yeah.
My history is I worked at ResNet here, and then I worked at a scientific journal. It was for Department of Resident Life here. Then I worked at a scientific journal free press place in a basement. And then for a large chunk of my career, I worked for PBS Kids, making websites, and also working on their content for PBS parents and things like that. And then I went out into the consulting world and I worked at a place called Sapient, giant consulting firm over in Arlington, which put me at NIH, which was awesome. I got to work at the National Cancer Institute, which was really cool. And then I worked at Form One. Hey, Form One. That's where I was an art director, and I learned about the side of business there. And then Rocketkoi. So I went through. My career has almost been 100% web and illustration.
Yeah, I started in web design here also. What was it? I worked for OIT.
Yeah.
And then I transferred to a school in New York where I freelanced through school. After school, I couldn't find a job actually. So I took an internship.
How about that too?
Yeah, at Firstborn Multimedia. And I worked for I did an internship for a month, and then I got hired. So I worked there for about 6 months. It didn't really work out. Then I got a job as a bookbinder and designer for 3 years, and then I went back into the web world at an agency in New York, and then I moved here and got another gig at an agency down here called Media Barn, and then I left and started freelancing, and then a year later, Malcolm joined me.
So we've done this, we're in our 3rd year.
Yeah.
Now. At one point, whoa, that got so bright. At one point, I could also not find a job. So I worked at B. Dalton Booksellers at Montgomery Mall for 8 months.
And you know, you just keep freelancing. Just little projects here and there. It was mostly like family friends that heard about that I was a design student, and they thought they could get a deal, and they did. They got a deal. Yeah. But it was good. You know, I got some experience, and
Same way for me.
none of it was like great work, but.
We both.
Oh, and Craigslist. I found a few gigs
Yeah,
on
me too.
Craigslist, especially when I took a semester off, and
Very terrifying.
yeah, there was a lot of gigs on Craigslist.
And we knew that they wouldn't pay very much, but they put a little money in their pockets and they'll build up our portfolio. You know, college
I actually, when I took a semester off, I got a job doing data entry, and they had a website, and they found out I could do web design, so I took over. God, they really underpaid me because they were just paying me for like data entry, and
Yeah.
I'm doing their website for them.
I worked at a pizza place, and I ended up doing the website for the pizza place because they only could do websites. They didn't have one. I think it was terrible. sorry, no roller. That was a bad website. But just like that, a little bit of little coincidence, little luck, a little hey, I can do that. You know, have $200 to pay me to do it. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, $50 to pay me to do it, knowing that I'd be sorely underpaid. Just put food money in my pocket, and the biggest thing when we were freelance in school, and I wish I had done this and I didn't, was just make sure you put scope around it. Like, for example, let's just say you're doing a poster for somebody. Just sort of like all the posters up there. If you're gonna go freelance, you get 2 revisions on this poster. I give you one, you give me your feedback, I give you another, you give me your feedback, and then we're moving on with our lives.
Unless you're paying me more money.
Unless you're paying me more. I think that would be the biggest thing, because then it's fine that you're not getting paid a ton of money for it because it's not taking up all your time.
We still do that sometimes.
Yeah.
If there's a client that we really want to work for, but they have a limited budget, we just limit the scope.
You just say, hey, you do that. And it makes all the difference. It keeps you sane around your schoolwork, because that's what'll get you more than anything else is the time. It'll just devour it, and suddenly you're exhausted all the time. Your picture.
Yeah. Where do you want everybody? Like here?
It's always the office picture.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
Any more questions? No, so helpful.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
This is a lot of it comes with practice. Yeah. Start with like a couple.